Just gonna wait for a few to pop in.
Yep. Let me just mute these servers here, or else they will disturb me.
Alright.
I don't know, I want to deal with that, quite
Okay.
frankly.
Oh, and we're up. We're on? Alright, so hello and welcome to Evening with Comrades. Tonight it's the most skeleton crew we've had
Just
with
two bones.
me,
It's just two
Dipdap,
bones.
and Theo. No, this is like an upper torso. This is like the ribcage episode.
No, it's just two bones.
Mhm.
It's like, just two legs.
Yep. So,
We're on our last leg.
God damn it. I want to open up tonight with the fact that now there are 2.25 million coronavirus cases confirmed, which is an interesting development, to say the least.
Yep.
And also, another part of this is that of these 2.25 million, America makes up almost a third of them.
Yeah.
With a death rate of all
Which means
resolved
they have
cases.
now overtaken Italy.
Yes, well, they overtook Italy a while ago.
Yes, but we didn't have a stream last week.
Yeah,
And they didn't
America
last time.
has 700,000 cases. And it shows no signs of stopping anytime soon, as America today has raised by 31,631 cases. Total in America, there's been 37,000 deaths and nearly 60,000 recovered. This means that America has about a 40% death rate from all resolved cases, with the new deaths today being 2,500. And for you, let's check Austria.
Yep.
Oh, hey, 14.6 thousand people, with the rising of 119. Total deaths,
That's less than
431. New deaths, 21. Total recovered, 9,704.
Yeah.
Of all resolved cases there, you have a 4% death rate.
And I can tell you exactly why things like that happen.
Why?
Right? I'm going to use an example you told me earlier. In the U.S. Navy, and in hospitals in general, across the U.S., you lose your job and position and get reprimanded for reporting a case.
Yep.
Here you get a civil court case filed against you for not reporting a case.
In America, less than 100,000 of our cases have been resolved, meaning that we still have 612,000 active cases at this moment.
Remember that the US is not reporting its numbers correctly.
Yes, we are not. We are diagnosing people, especially people of color, with pneumonia, bronchitis, and the flu.
I want to quote a news report from Austrian television, where it's like, they were basically detailing a situation in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the way that so they basically said, the curve has apparently, supposedly, flattened, quote unquote, but, you know, there is an inexplicable rise. With a very condescending tone of voice, there is an inexplicable rise in pneumonia diagnoses because the test is apparently not quite accurate. And then, like, the adage, at least that's what the US Department of Health tells us.
Right. The American, I don't trust that at all. No trust.
Oh, no. No, absolutely not.
Like, absolutely no trust? That is a lie.
Yeah, and it is this difference in mindset, right? We are willing to just shut down all business, right? Restaurants will be closed for the next month and a half still, and the
Um,
government will stand in for potential bankruptcies, right? This will cost us a huge amount of money, but we'll we'll be fucking alive.
well, speaking of alive, you want to talk about a certain person in Germany?
Oh yes, the federal minister of finance in Germany has gone missing.
For how
As in, there
long?
was a missing persons report filed, I think a week and a half now.
Oh dear fucking god.
Like no one has seen him.
And you said there
Uh,
was a theory that he escaped to Switzerland, I believe.
yeah, I don't have confirmation on that, so that's just a rumor. But I know that people haven't spotted him in a week and a
Oh
half,
dear
which
god.
is just on the back of the finance minister of Thuringia literally killing himself right after a major stock market crash.
Yeah, let's check the Dow
Not to
actually.
mention, not to
We're
mention that
going up.
not just in the US, but in Germany, France, the UK, uh, multiple members of government are implicated in insider trading,
Mm-hmm.
including Macron.
Oh dear god. The French people are gonna kill him.
Yes, Macron has assets in the stock market, and he mysteriously
Sold them.
seems to have sold them off just before the quarantine measures came into effect, or rather were announced.
Brigadier General Strike in the chat says we sacrificing Poles and Romanians to the market.
Yeah,
America is just sacrificing people of color and quote unquote essential workers, which means like McDonald's employees apparently.
yeah. Well, this is the big thing. All restaurants that do not deliver are closed. Period.
Yeah, no, we wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no takeaway, no nothing. The only thing you can get is if they deliver to your doorstep, and there is a very stringent regulation on how they have to do that. They have to, with gloves, take your food, put it in front of your front porch, ring your bell, take 5 steps back, wait 5 minutes, and then leave, or until you take your food inside.
Yeah, no, America does none of that. See, you have to remember that the United States only gives a fuck about profit. And,
Yeah,
speaking of which, we're gonna be restarting the fucking economy soon. And not
uh,
only does Trump support this, but so does Biden.
let
Well,
me,
it's
in
hard to tell
contrast,
what
tell
Biden
you,
supports. I don't think he has the ability to support anything, but yeah.
he still thinks this is the polio epidemic. Uh,
I mean, Joe Biden does think that it's 1960 something still.
yeah. Uh, no, but hold on, let me try and figure out how long these measures are still slotted to be in order. Originally, we were going to restart the economy on Easter. That hasn't happened. What has happened now is that we have that certain hardware stores have open in limited capacity because people need appliances if they break, right? But they're only open for 4 hours or something. Uh, Other than that, still everything closed. Restaurants will remain closed, most likely. Let's see. Conservative estimates say until the beginning of June. More realistic estimates assume till the end of July.
Hmm.
So
Uh.
we will keep ours closed until basically the end of the summer. But here's an important thing. Here's an interesting thing. Uh, because everything's closed, we don't have a stay-at-home order, right? We have regulations on don't walk in like massive groups or whatever and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just want to take a walk through the fucking park, no one's gonna stop you because we already have these like social. We basically don't go close to each other anyway because that's weird because we don't know each other. uh, so what I have started doing, which I should have done ages ago, is just go out, pick a direction, and walk for an hour.
Uh, like, well, speaking of some stuff, we should probably talk about the mental effects of all this.
Yeah, I haven't talked to a single person other than people that are as strange and isolated as myself that haven't suffered from cabin fever.
Um, in America, suicide prevention hotlines calls rose by about 800%.
Yeah,
People are dying, not only of the virus, but also of depression and suicide.
and let's talk about why that is. That has causes.
Let's. You want to lead that part?
Yeah. So people are people have built their lives on consumption, on consuming things,
Consume.
right? Of course, there is the social aspect, and a lot of people who are very, very extroverted are suffering from this for reasons that are unrelated to this. Can't hang out with my friends, stuff like that. That's completely normal, understandable. But a lot of people who normally don't talk to anyone are suffering from this, you know, even harder. Um, and that is, from my assessment at least, because it's just so commodified. We
Yeah,
consume, we buy things, we eat them, we watch things, and all of a sudden,
it's not
uh,
accessible.
we can't.
Tell me if it's something that's happening in Austria. Are there ads going around saying we know it's a tough time, basically, but you should still consume our
No,
product because
no.
that's half of the things on TV right now.
How well? Basically, half of the ads on TV right now are government PSAs.
You know, we
Oh,
don't
we
do
might
that.
get another joinee.
We don't do that. Oh, who?
Polio.
All right. Yeah, that's quite the time.
Yeah, like we have, government health PSAs where it's like, hey, this is how you can keep yourself safe. Uh, do this, don't do this, and stuff like that. Um,
Americans are instead trying to find loopholes. Um, Americans have instead, especially in I think Michigan, decided to protest social distancing laws as tyrannical.
they're not even laws here, and you want to know why that is? It's actually quite funny.
Because they don't need to be laws.
Yeah, first of all, that, and the big reason behind that is when you're talking to each other, you're in our culture already sitting 6 feet apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you get closer to me than that, it's strange. And if I don't know you,
That's weird.
no thanks. Yeah. So really, our regulations are more like, hey, be mindful. And because we don't have a fully militarized police force, what cops will essentially do is like stop by the side of the road when they see like a commotion of people walking across that doesn't just look like a family. It's like, hey, who are you? What are you doing? Uh, all right. Keep like spacing. You're a bit close together, and then they drive off.
Um, Democrats in the U.S. have now decided to slightly, I think, push forward a what is it? Like a thing to give people $2,000 a month until the end of the crisis, which means they could have done it anytime they wanted,
Yeah.
but they won't, obviously, because they need you to work.
Why do you think they won't?
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. but like, fucking hell, they go through these fucking bullshit. Uh, we have made some very concise outlines,
In
and the government.
Brigadier General striking the chat said basically they're claiming that the workers are happy to have to keep working in this situation. In America, in Michigan, apparently people are, because they're outside the governor's house screaming, "We want to work. We want to work."
All essential workers are now paid double hazard pay.
We no, not here.
Now what double hazard pay means that currently their hourly wage is quadrupled.
What? No, we don't do that. We don't do that at all.
I mean, it depends on the time, right? So it's a different rate when you're working from between 9 and 14. Those hours are basically quadruple your normal rate. The rest is just double.
Fucking what?
Yeah.
America, okay. I am now
I know
convinced
that sounds very strange to say in the context. Just double.
America is now absolutely a fucking hellhole, and I hate it here. But let's talk about some things that governments are doing, specifically Viktor Orban and Donald Trump. So I mentioned, I think last stream, that...
we should probably announce that we have someone else in the chat now.
Oop, we do. Let's see. Hello, Apollyon.
How's it going?
We're just, getting into the swing with less people than usual.
Yeah, we're talking about...
Orban.
Yeah, among other things. The government responses to the virus. Last week, Austria has closed its borders to its last neighbor, which was Switzerland. And that is actually because the Swiss didn't want to close theirs. But Vorarlberg is like our fucking, which is the state that borders Switzerland, is our hot zone for infection, and we didn't want to spread it, so we closed the border. Which, but we closed it to Hungary 2 weeks ago, because, so recap, what did Orban do in response to this?
He's been given emergency power, which gives him the rule of decree. Instead of actually dealing with the virus, he has now made things to essentially change the Hungarian school system to include far-right anti-Semitic people, and also especially members of the Arrow Cross Party from the 1930s, which was, I think, Ferenc Szalasi's fascist organization.
Yep. Yes, it was.
Among other people. He's just been giving himself more power.
Similar?
What?
We're talking about Hungary.
You are talking about Hungary? I think you're talking about Austria. My bad.
Oh.
No, Austria is not. We're not that insane. Not yet.
I heard Austria closing its borders, and I actually don't know the leaders of these countries, unfortunately. Sorry.
And then Trump is saying that Congress should adjourn, meaning they should close until the end of the crisis and give him power.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
He says that he will force them to if they do not willingly.
Where? Where is Trump said this?
Hold on. Trump.
No, I'm actually interested. I mean, I live in the States.
I do too. Hold on. Threatens to adjourn Congress, but constitutional law says he shouldn't be able to. Let's see. This is from Forbes that he's saying that they should adjourn Congress. He said, let's see. Let me try and find the quote that he uses. Trump said the Senate, which is controlled by Republicans, should fulfill its duty by voting on nominees, or it should formally adjourn so that I can make recess appointments. If the House will not agree to that adjournment, I will exercise my constitutional authority to adjourn both chambers of Congress, end quote.
Yep. You there, Dip Dap?
Yep.
I actually don't know. Actually, I've been studying constitutional law for a while, and I've never seen a case like this before. Starting to adjourn Congress.
Because it's not in the Constitution. He's fucking lying.
He's lying because like literal constitutional lawyers are saying he's misinterpreting his powers. But the Republicans will grant it probably.
Do you want to know a funny contrast?
What?
A proposal that is proposed by the current head of government, actually not the current head of government, but the current head of the Federal Assembly, is to enact a type of emergency government which is aptly titled rule by parliament, which is to say we would dissolve the government and just rule the country with the parliament as like a single council which is consulted on every decision, and basically make rapid fire like governance. And this would essentially mean that all oppositions parties would be included in government, because all decisions would just be voted on in parliament instead of having a government, which fascinating, isn't it?
What? So what does he intend to do? Suspend Congress and then force states to, open up business?
Okay, so he's threatening to use his Article 2 powers laid out in the U.S. Constitution to force Congress to adjourn so he can make recess appointments for vacant spots in his administration. Basically, so he can fill positions in his government without any interference.
Oh, so they don't have to be, approved by Congress, is
Right.
what you're saying.
So, whoever he wants to appoint or fire, no checks.
Let me put it this way. Name one instance where a authoritarian president dissolving the parliament has not descended into, just a dictatorship.
Name
Name one. Any. Go ahead. I'll wait.
I mean, I'm not gonna name one, but at that point, it'd just be taking off the mask.
Yeah, it's just mask
obviously.
off.
No, not in the sense where Trump is a fascist, in the sense that people really don't actually have control over the United States in the way they pretend we do.
Yeah, because Trump isn't a fascist, he's just a fucking neocon, and this is the neocon dream.
Yeah.
Well, practically, what's the difference between a bunch of corporate entities? I mean, at least, and what's more important between a fascist owning everything and corporatists owning everything, other than the obvious anti-Semitism?
Implying that neocons aren't anti-Semitic as well, but let's.
They only like Jews when they're in Israel.
Yeah.
That's it.
Same as Israel, actually.
Yeah.
There's a problem with this. If Trump does attempt to open up, the United States for business again, it'll just spread and it will eventually force us to shut down. The infection rates will be too high. They'll have to do it.
No.
You know what's going to happen? They're just going to let it collapse, because they don't understand that they'll just keep it going, even if it's just a necrotic corpse that collapses in on itself over and over and over and over and over.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's generating any kind of money, they will keep doing it.
As long as it's profitable, because Bezos and Zuckerberg and Musk are still making money through this, by the way. Billions, in fact.
Yes. And here's the kicker. They will keep making money off of this even long after normal society has collapsed.
Yes.
That's why they will keep on pressing through the societal collapse. They don't give a shit. Money is our god. This is a blood sacrifice, right? They are willing to sacrifice millions of civilians, innocent people, to the money god.
Well,
That's what this is.
to the Moloch that is the bull market.
Yes. We are sacrificing people by the millions to the market. Like that.
And they don't give a shit about you, your family, or anyone but their money.
Think about it this way. You are rhetoric. You are a talking point that is used to convince you yourself that that isn't the case.
The only people that say, what is it? That Elon Musk, for example, gives a fuck about. Let's go through it. Elon Musk, his girlfriend,
Any of these philanthropists, for that matter.
and his stockholders. That's it. He doesn't give a fuck about you. He definitely doesn't give a fuck about the slaves that work in his mines in the Congo. He doesn't care about. He didn't care. Like his dad didn't care about the people who worked in his emerald mines in South Africa during the apartheid era. They don't give a fuck about you, and they never will. The idea that someone who does not own capital can be a capitalist is the perfect example of Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it is that no one in the government gives a fuck about you. They just don't. Also, I'll be right back so you can continue.
And this isn't even... Yeah, and this isn't connected to them being, like, some kind of... out of some kind of malice, right? That's just... to them, that's just how it is. Oh, you're dying? Well, too bad. It just be like that. Literally, that's the idea there. But it's about the economy. We are sacrificing people, like... No, we're repeating ourselves, but that's... There's no other way to put this. You are fodder. But that's kind of the point, you know? To not be fodder. Right?
I have a question if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So in regards to they're gonna sacrifice literally everyone, by that I assume you mean letting the infection spread so as long as the business stays open?
Yes, and this... I know that
Just
on the
clarifying.
surface doesn't... Yeah. Yes. On the surface that doesn't, initially make sense until you realize that the people who are on the bottom line profiting from this will still profit from this, albeit less, when, well, everything else is collapsed because everyone's too sick to work.
Well, my point wasn't the idea that, like,
Yeah.
that they care. My point was that at some point, if the United States does want to actually halt the infection, it will have to eventually
Well, they
shut
don't.
down.
Because they don't care.
I know. But in that sense, I don't know, it's gonna make a lot of fucking people mad.
Sure, but foresight isn't exactly the strong suit of the American government.
I just hope that the CIA isn't hyper-focused on any organizational groups that pop up later on.
Oh, they will be. They absolutely will be. It will... It is a literal death match. Right? Think of it as this way. They're basically sending their most vulnerable vulnerable people on like a sort of trail of tears sort of scenario, because well, that's just how it's gonna be, for the sake of money. Yeah. Uh, Capitalism with Aztec characteristics. Hell yeah.
Don't
Uh,
you think it reminds me of how Umberto Eco described fascism, the idea in which they have to repetitively define an other in order to sustain themselves. Capitalism, in a similar way,
yes.
has to repetitively make profits to sustain itself. Otherwise,
Yes, the difference is that one is like a directed action. The other is basically just a result of the conditions that capitalism exists in. Yeah, that's that's it. Uh,
have you guys talked
fuck.
about organizing in the
Yes.
COVID-19 yet?
Yes, a little bit. We've talked about how in, this is quite something that's actually very interesting. Where in France, uh, the government is essentially hello. How in France, the fucking major factories and producers and all that have just not shut down, so the workers went in themselves and just occupied the factories and shut them down.
Base. French know how to do this.
Oh yeah, I did a translation for my org recently of about how sanitation workers are dealing with this.
Yeah.
Let's see. They said that they weren't being provided like basic sanitation shit, and the people that were in the leading positions, the managers, did have them.
Yeah. And it's the same thing in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I've seen images of just people, trash disposal people, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Comparison of Germany just across the border and here.
Mm-hmm.
Germany, they wear latex gloves and the same face masks that we use to go to shop, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the fuckers run around with here?
What?
Full on grade 2 hazmat suits.
Excuse me.
They're cheap, they're just plastic. And we have a lot of the rebreathers. Basically, we have shut down a lot of steel production, a lot of car production, a lot of weapons production, importantly, and have just forced these companies to basically produce sanitation and medical equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Like basically, the government went up to the Steyr works, for example, and said, "All right, you're gonna close down 2 of your weapon shops, and those are going to start producing uh, medical equipment and uh, hazmat equipment."
Right.
And that was an executive decision. We basically, and this is actually why the Germans are so angry at us, because a lot of those factories are owned by German investors.
Hmm.
Right? And we basically just told those people, those factories, what to do. And the Germans see that as. Hold on, let me see if I can find the quote from the now disappeared Minister of Finance.
I just found out that Maine is now coordinating with New Hampshire and Vermont on reopening their economies. I hate this country.
Wait, who said that?
Um, it was Maine coordinating with New Hampshire, Vermont on reopening economy amid coronavirus.
Oh shit!
Oh, gold! This is gold. I found the quote.
I ain't gonna dox myself, but I'm in one of those states.
Oof.
Big oof, guys. My governor's a
Uh,
fucking idiot if that's actually what he thinks.
okay, just keep this in mind, guys. Do not just pretend that it's over. It's not. Stay at home as long as you can. Protect yourself.
I do have one
F-
question, if you don't mind.
Yes. Go ahead.
How are they? How are I'm actually curious to see uh how they intend to reopen the economy when people just remain to stay home. Do they just stay there?
They'll just
Well,
make it
this
to where
is
you
one of
get
the things.
fired.
Yeah. Uh, this is one of the. Here's another thing, though. That's one of the like guiding problems of capitalism. It only works because we let it. Right. The
Yeah,
second that
you have to
large.
reify it.
Yeah, it's you give it power. It's like capitalism begins in your head. Put it like that.
Wasn't that sort of Mark Fisher's capitalist realism?
Partially,
There's more to it, but
that's part of
yeah.
it.
Well, I found the quote from the German Minister of Finance where he called our measures to force factories owned by German investors and capitalists to produce medical equipment a quote violation of basic principles of liberty and free trade.
I hate these people. These people. Um, now,
And the response from Austria is always from the Austrian government is always yeah, but we'll live.
um, I'm just gonna do what I normally say and hang them. I don't care. They can fuck off. If they'd rather make people die, then they can die. Don't give a fuck.
I actually saw a meme on like fucking Austrian Twitter, which is a strange place. Don't go there. There's weird people there. But it's like you know, the German Minister of Finance is like, rather Germany in general is like, no, you can't just appropriate our factories and force them to produce medical equipment to combat the virus. And then it's
Factory go
just like,
brr.
yeah, hazmat machine go burr.
I mean, hazmat machine go burr. Did you hear about Elon Musk's ventilators?
Oh, fucking hell yeah.
Weren't they like not even the
They
correct
were
type?
not functional, and instead they increased infection rate by making the air leave the person.
Didn't he like say that like didn't he like make a comment about that and sort of was just like, oh, you're just not using it the right
Yeah,
way,
they leaked.
trying to
They
defend it?
leaked air. It took air out of the person's lungs.
You don't understand. That's just capitalist innovation at work.
That's an innovation, yeah.
Infection spreader go burr.
Infection machine go brrrr.
In comparison, now in hospitals, all staff who actively interact with patients
Mm-hmm.
are now wearing proper hazardous materials equipment.
My
And
mom
you want to know
was
who
a
pays for
nurse.
that?
Who?
This is taken out. We've taken it out of the defense budget and put it into that.
We'd never do that.
Yeah.
My mom was a nurse before this. She's not anymore. But yeah, she said she would not dare go back into it right now
Yeah.
because it would mean death. In Mobile, Alabama, a lot of doctors are dying because
Yeah.
they don't
Basically,
have the things
well, a
they
lot
need.
of. Yeah, my stepmother actually is a secretary in a children's hospital in Vienna, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what has been done, at least in hospitals in Vienna,
Mm-hmm.
is that all the staff, the essential secretary staff
Mm-hmm.
that, you know, has to do all the filing, they've basically sectioned off certain floors as quote unquote safe,
Mm-hmm.
right? No patients are there. That's just offices. They've reappropriated all of their office stuff into these sections, and everything else is just that's the patients. and if you don't, have to interact with patients, if you're not a nurse or a doctor, you stay outside of those fucking areas.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't go anywhere near those.
Didap, how have I assume you organize with the org that you referenced earlier. Have you had any troubles actually, you know, meeting up with them due to Corona?
See, I'm part of the American section of an international org, and everyone in my org lives in a different state.
Yeah.
Oh.
They all live on the East or West Coast. And by that I mean New York or California, basically.
I was trying to say that I've been starting up an anarchist organization. It's been going pretty well in New England generally.
Mm-hmm.
We occasionally meet up and stuff, and it's really hard to do any sort of like small time mutual aid when it comes
yeah.
when it comes to Corona, especially due to the fact that like no one really wants to risk it.
Yeah, on that note, decentralize your organizations. It makes you basically impossible to trace. Don't have memberships. Just be a bunch of people meeting up. You will be basically untraceable, and fucking counterintelligence can do nothing about you.
Essentially, what I've formulated was something a bit more kind of inspired off Bookchin, but the idea of sort of forming bases, I call it bases of support, which is essentially friend groups that are networks as like kind of acts like safety social nets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To which from those networks you can organize praxis, and you don't have to be like a massive ass organization.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I guess I just it's hard since a lot of the people really don't want to meet up due to the corona, and that's kind of hard, especially due to the fact that the government, as you said, is currently uh, taking the mask off bit by a bit.
According to Brigadier General Strike in the chat, all public gatherings have been banned until the 31st of August in Germany.
Yes. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
the actual state of emergency is only set to last until mid-July, so.
Hmm.
And there have been international observers who have commented that this looks like a move from the German government to write the ban on public assembly into law.
Uh-huh.
And it's gotten to the point where I forget, I think it was the Dutch who condemned this as, you know, what it is. It's stomping on freedom. I mean, we don't have a law that, bans public assembly. Basically, theoretically, a bunch of people were to just go out and meet up, there's nothing the government here could really do about that. There is an executive order that allows the police, and I would like to preface this: the police here is still terrible because they're cops, but they're not. They're not just a military, right? They're bureaucrats with a nightstick.
Mm-hmm. It's not like America where I'm fucking terrified of a police officer.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not comfortable around them, I will say that.
They'll
but,
shoot me.
Like, the last time someone, like a police officer, shot someone, like, unjustly, I went to prison. So, just for, I think, 15 years.
We never do that. We don't convict
Yeah.
police officers, even if it's like very obvious.
Yeah. Like, as I said, people here are just, like, cops here are just bureaucrats with a nightstick. They write tickets, that's it.
We make excuses for police officers.
Like, we have special response units, but those only come out when
it's needed.
Required.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, say there's a hostage situation, then we send what's known as the federal police militia.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the people with the, militarized sort of gear. But the things, we don't send those guys out on the street. We send them on specific missions in specific environments where that is needed.
Uh,
You know,
Only Bro in the chat says Merkelreich, which is a joke. My friend has been making a joke that's Corona Reich, which is how he thinks that America is going to get closer to some sort of breaking apart because of the fucking virus. Like I said, with all these states coordinating together, they're not relying on the central government anymore because they won't do anything.
Blood sacrifice, as I said. No,
Blood
but
sacrifice.
what I was trying to say was here is that the police has the authority to non-violently disperse large crowds until they are either gone or, and I'm quoting the official legislature here, adequately spaced.
So, like, French, peaceful, non-violently spacing?
Well, basically, the government stance is you can publicly assemble, just stand 6 feet apart.
That's great. I mean, it's not great, but it's funny.
Yeah.
Are there any other big news stories about this this week?
There was those dipshit right-wingers fucking protesting.
In Michigan, yeah.
To get the states open.
We want to work.
I know. I
work.
got something.
Mm-hmm.
I got a thing. So, where the German military is now disobeying its government's orders. Because the government essentially told the military to pretend there is no virus.
Excuse me?
Yes. Just let the soldiers get sick was basically what the fucking government told them. And now the general staff of the Bundeswehr had said no and just taken measures despite direct government action, which is the first time the German army has done anything like this since... hold on. I think the Kapp-Putsch would be the last time that something like this has happened. Like, with the army as a whole.
Oh, God.
That's the 20s. That's 100 years.
The 20s, you say?
Yep. And, well, the state said just let him die, and the general staff was like, no. And now there is also I don't know how reliable, but there is a report that indicates that certain state presidents and which is like the equivalent of both governor and senator, basically in Germany, those two positions are kind of merged because there's only a sort of federal assembly. It's a bit weird.
There is one more thing to mention. From the international...
Can I just finish this?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So, those leaders of those specific states are now in some places allegedly coordinating with the military against the federal government's orders and taking quarantine measures.
Holy shit. The Merkel coup
Oftentimes
has
it's
begun.
just local city councils. There's even one city in like Bavaria where the local Bundeswehr garrison has basically couped the mayor of the town.
What?
Well, basically the mayor is from the CDU, which is Merkel's party, and he was like, no, we're not going to do any sort of quarantine. And the military, who had a garrison in the town, just did it anyway.
Owned.
Telling him he has no authority over them. The thing is, they're also disobeying the federal government, which means the German army, like the German military, isn't really taking orders from anyone right now.
Okay, then. All right. Well, the last bit of news is from the International Monetary Fund, fund? Do you know? Well,
we need to talk about the World Health Organization after this.
Okay, yeah. Well, two things then. The IMF predicts worst downturn since the Great Depression. The global economy is predicted to contract by about 3% this year as quarantines and lockdowns cripple output. The IMF issued a warning on Tuesday about the economic toll, saying that the world is, quote, facing its worst downturn since the Great Depression, as shuttered factories, quarantines, and national lockdowns cause economic output to collapse, end quote. They're saying that it could contract by 3% in 2020, which is a reversal of early this year where it was set to outpace 2019's growth of 3.3%. And it's also important to remember that the recession in 2008 only contracted by, well, less than 1% of it all. Quote, as countries implement necessary quarantines and social distancing practices to contain the pandemic, the world has been put in a great lockdown, says the IMF's chief economist. The magnitude and speed of collapse inactivity that has followed is unlike anything experienced in our lifetimes. This is gonna be a bruh moment.
Very bad.
Yeah.
Very bad.
It is very likely. This is also another quote from that economist. Okay. It is very likely that this year the global economy will experience its worst recession since the Great Depression. End quote. And now we can move on to the WHO.
Yeah. By the way, I'm really sorry, but I might actually have to head off because I have to do a thing.
So, I don't know much about the whole WHO.
Basically, yeah. I think there will be more developments on this next week, so we can just.
Yeah, let's do that next week.
Yeah. Very sorry, but
right.
I really have to head off really badly. So
I'm glad I was able to come on though.
Yep. All right. So this has been DipDap and Theo and also Apollyon. Thanks for coming on this week. We'll see you all next week.